welcome to Scaled Affairs, the show where I try to rationalize my purchases while trying to fight buyer's remorse. The show where I fight buyer's No. The show where I try to rationalize my purchases while trying to fight buyer's... What is going on? No. Don't tell me this is all just a simulation.
Oh my, look who's finally caught on.
One could almost say you figured it out.
Who are you? What is the meaning behind all of
Yeah,
this?
well, I could tell you that, but then I'm afraid you wouldn't be able to bubble wrap your head around it. For the moment, let's just pretend there was a change of management on campus and the board decided to promote you to customer. Well, how did you always say? Sit back and relax. Enjoy the show. Oops. I'm sure he's fine. And you don't care about the lore anyway, am I right? You're just here because you saw this delicious in-dungeon figure in the thumbnail and now you expect some sort of review. Well, I guess it can't be helped then. I don't want to be accused of false advertising. So, let's get it on, shall we?
Well, this is the new studio. As you can see, it is far from being completed, but the rest of the way we can walk together. I took this change of scenery as a chance to overhaul the complete production of Scaled Affairs into a figure review show that is better in quality and perhaps more entertaining to watch. And for this first episode into a new era, I've chosen this 1/7 scale figure of Marcille from Dungeon Meshi, sculpted by Fundoshi and produced by Kadokawa. This is the box the figure comes in. As you can see, it got a large front window and this dark red marble looking texture together with the gold font gives it a very premium look. On one side we have another large window letting more light into the blister, as well as the character's name and the show she comes from. And apparently that it's a limited edition, but then aren't all figures kinda limited in production? Anyhow, if you're curious what the small text on the bottom says, you can pause the video right here and read it for yourself. It's my first time ever seeing a plot summary of a show printed on a figure box, but yeah, sure, why not? On the other side we got the same text, but instead of the window we have a close-up of the character. Backside is also pretty standard with some legal mumbo jumbo and additional pictures of the figure with all her accessories. Size-wise, this is a fairly large box for a fairly large figure. Sadly, it does not feature a face cutout in front of the blister, but I like all those little details like the monster silhouettes and that the inlay is a printed dungeon wall. But now we are like what? 5 minutes into the episode and you probably lose patience because you want to see the darn figure, am I right? So let's unpack her, shall we? Voila! A 1/7 scale figure of Marcille coming right up. That was too fast, wasn't it? Well, okay then, let's take it from the top, shall we? First, we open the clamshell blister and put away all the protective foils so that we can safely lift her out. There is a second layer beneath that houses the base, her staff and the spellbook. We also take out those items as well, and now we can start to put her together. Let's cue the mounting sequence! Okay, mounting isn't really that complicated. In fact, I do like that the brake line where the staff connects is very well hidden behind her left hand. But it was surprisingly hard to push the feet onto those metal pegs. As you can see, I still didn't manage to get them all the way down to the floor, so that from certain angles there is a notable gap between the sandals and the base. Also very cumbersome was the mounting method for the book. It has this tiny peg on the bottom that is almost sculpted and painted like one of those old bookmarks, and there is a hole for it in her right palm, but it doesn't quite fit at all. I guess they were going for a slight levitation effect, when in reality it just looks odd. Also, if you move the figure around, chances are it will fall out of her hand. See? Also, after receiving my copy, I now know why the promotional pictures are only showing this figure from the front. Yep, the book is completely empty. Honestly, what a fumble on an otherwise great figure. Wouldn't this look so much better? I know a review like this should be structured like a sandwich where good things and negative things take turns, but let me have one more nitpick and then we can talk about how overall great this release really is, okay? I'm not a big fan of this base design. I guess the red part should resemble a blood stain, and I know there are scenes like this in the show, but in this implementation it looks more like a piece of cloth or leather. It is also strangely textured, and in my opinion, a base design purely made out of cobblestone, maybe with some green plants or small rocks sprinkled between, would have looked far better. Now that I've covered all the parts I dislike about this Marcille figure, let's talk about the good stuff. First of all, it's a big and weighty figure. Feels great the moment you take her out of the blister. I was really surprised how heavy this one really is. When I put her on my kitchen scale, it reads 519 grams or just short of 1.2 kilos if we weigh her inside the box. For a PVC figure without an elaborate base design, she is quite the chunker. This actually brings me to my next point, comparison. For a relatively recent series, Marcille already got a fair amount of releases for all wallet sizes, including a Nendo, Pop-Up Parade and a Figma coming in late spring. So why did I choose this version instead of the more lavish looking Good Smile one that is similar in price and size? Well, while I'm sure the adding color to a dungeon one is a great version of her, and honestly I was impressed how quickly this heavily detailed scale figure was announced and released, for the purpose of figure photos I much more prefer upright standing figures with expressive faces where I can add my own builds and miniatures to a scene. In fact, I'm already planning for a photo with this figure. As you can see, right now I'm still on the drawing board, but hopefully soon this concept of a plan will manifest into reality as a backdrop for my figure. The paint job on this figure is dungeon rock solid. All the different colors like her stitches or the belt buckle are clearly defined, and despite not having the most ornate outfit, the shading brings in a good amount of depth. All the more detailed parts like fingers, toes and braided hair are molded with competence. I especially like the shoulder cape with these tiny seam lines on it and the red ribbon in front. The only part where I thought this could have been more refined is the open case for the spellbook. It looks a bit too clean and blocky, and of course it would have been extra nice if this figure had an alternative stance with the book inside the holster and an extra hand with another pose. But then I guess I want to have a second facial expression and another hand for her staff, and in the end this would have raised prices even higher. Also, and I didn't include this in my negative list because I assume it only applies to my copy, but there is this tiny squiggly black line on the edge of her mouth. It's hard to get even in focus, and I don't know what it is. It might be a paint defect or some sort of pube that got stuck on her during production, but it is there. Even if it's hard to get in focus and you barely notice it, it is bothersome when you know it's there. Other than that, her face is painted beautifully. As you can see, even with this amount of zoom and enhance, it still looks very clean. Like I said, I do appreciate how expressive her face is and her more dynamic pose. Even with those compromises like the blank pages in her book, strange looking base design and lack of texture in certain areas of the belt section, I think it's an absolutely stunning figure that is worth your money. Good colors, spot on facial expression and an accurate outfit. In my opinion, this is the version of Marcille to get. The only sad part is that Marcille is kind of the poster child for this show, and one thing that makes Dungeon Meshi feel so great is this whole party vibe like an MMO or an RPG. And I do know for a fact that we will most likely never get a Chilchak, a Senji or even a Laios in this scale with this level of competence. So if you don't want to level solo and prefer the whole gang either for your photos or in your showcase, I'm afraid the Nendos are the only real option here. Okay, this is all I wanted to tell you about this Kadokawa figure of Marcille. I really hope you don't mind this new style of presentation. I'm also pretty sure many things will get switched around in the upcoming episodes while I'll still experiment with all the new gadgets I got. But once this whole studio area here is fully furnished and all the cameras are set up, I might have a couple surprises for you in store. For now, thank you so much for your unwavering support. I even have noticed a couple new subscribers to the channel, even if there was no new content for like half a year now. But now I might be able to upload more frequently. I even have a small backlog of figures I want you to show. So for the next episode you can write in the comments if I should review this very unique Gridman Universe figure with the swing, or this Asuka from Evangelion, also pretty recent. Until then, take care out there and keep having fun collecting.